probably one of the most important thoughts for every single person to have is, my life is significant, right? My soul came into this world for a significant purpose.
Welcome to Spiritually Hungry and Happy Holidays Snack Size Edition.
This is very exciting because as people come to the end of the year, the beginning of a new year, I think there's a lot of thoughts about life. And I think what we want to share today are some thoughts to help all of us.
Thoughts about life, but I think also a bigger desire to reset and change things. Yeah, and this year's going, for me anyway, very, very quickly. I think that
25 or 24?
Well, from September, I would say, until now. I think we have summer, and then everybody's like, okay, then we're going to get back into school and to work and those routines. And then you blink, and now we are starting a new year, and that kind of makes everybody pause. It's kind of sobering. And I like this because I think you and I both have a practice and discipline where we regularly ask ourselves these questions, I think daily. And I often ask myself like 5 or 6 times a day, and then I ask them out loud to you another 5 times. And but I think it's because we both take our lives seriously, not ourselves seriously, but our lives in the sense that we are here to achieve what we came to achieve. And you can say to win it, to crush it, but it's not a thing external. It's really about being.
Yeah, I think, and you said something which I think is very important. I want to underscore.
I love when you say that to me.
Yes. I say it often. Probably one of the most important thoughts for every single person to have is, my life is significant, right? My soul came into this world for a significant purpose. And I wonder how many people actually think that of themselves. I'm sure most people say, yeah, I want to be a good husband, I want to be a good wife, I want to be a good mother, I want to, in the localized areas of life, I want to be good at them. Right? I'm hoping, assuming most people are like that. But this is a higher level question than that.
Can I just stop you for a second? I actually, I work with a lot of people one-on-one, and I think what you just said is kind of an optimistic view. And even though you're not viewing it that way, right? Because what we're going to posit and suggest is going to even be the next level of that. But I think most people, for really
are just going through life, and the conversation and the thought process they often have, or the conversation they have with themselves, is, I just want to be happy. I'm tired of living this way. So they've gotten to a point where they're just so dissatisfied that they just want to be happy. And often it's like, well, for however many years I have left, like, it's different stages. If a person's a little bit younger, they often go back to the time, I was so happy then, I wish I could go back to that, right? So it's very, very rarely in the day or the moment. And yes, we talk about stillness, we talk about living in the moment, but really, Kabbalistically and spiritually speaking, it's more about living each day and then waking up the next day and living that day fully. And I think that if people viewed life in that way, they'd live it very differently. Because again, unfortunately, it's either marred by the past, the good that happened, or the bad that happened, and now I want to be somewhere else, or I've been in such a rut, or I'm stuck and I just want to be happy now. I just want to, it's that just thing, right? And what we're saying is, whoa, that's not even why any of us are here. No one's meant to live life like that. You're about to smile. I like the whoa. Whoa, hold your horses.
I know you so well. I knew you had some kind of different thought going on there, as you get a different kind of smile.
I literally saw you on a horse.
Yes, you get when you
hold your horses.
Nobody knows this about you. When you're thinking something that's not related at all to what's being said, you smile, but then one side of your lip goes up.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
I did.
Nice.
So you were saying, so that's what we were saying, but you were going to add the ultimate.
Right. And then I think, so assuming a person is at the place where they're aware or thinking about the fact that their life is significant. And it's not just at the basic level of those things that I do that are important, I want to do them well, but that we have this, awesome responsibility to live our soul's life, because really it's important to remind ourselves, people talk about this, we are not a body with a soul, we are a soul with a body, right? So that's a significant part of us, that we came here with important, we'll call it light
or goodness to reveal. Now, when I think about that, because there's ways to start thinking about this as external. Oh, so I need a lot of people to get goodness from me, or I need to influence a lot of people. That might be true, but that's very secondary.
And it's confusing for most people because that's all the feedback they get. And that's how most
often,
lives are measured, right?
Or often people think about it in that way. But I think when we're talking about looking at the past year, looking into this next year, the most important question is my soul connected to its source, to the light of the Creator? And I'm going to expand upon that a little bit more. But that's a real test of life. That as I go through life, I feel that I'm connected to, we'll call it our source, call it to the Creator, call it to my soul, call it to truth. But am I going through life with a connection to greater light, goodness? And yes, it manifests as, I need to be in this world doing good things, benefiting others, influencing others in a positive way. But at the core, it's you alone in your room at night, or you're alone in your room in the morning and saying, do I feel that sense of being connected to my truth, to my source, to my core?
I think part of the issue also is that people will recognize points of their life where there's change, right? So of course, back to what I said earlier is that, I loved it how it was like that, or I'm happy it's not like that anymore, right? We go through that comparison because we are always changing. Often we're unaware of the change that's happening until suddenly we're like, wait, how did I end up here? Or you don't recognize yourself even in the mirror, right? We suddenly recognize change. And I think that's a bit scary, right? So we start to want to hold on to what is comfortable and what we know for fear of that discomfort, that feeling of, well, this is new and this is different and I'm not sure how I feel about it. And so I think part of it is that each person should start to look at those moments where they recognize a change. Maybe they're not sure how they got there. Maybe they're not even sure they like it, or maybe they're curious about it, but it feels very unfamiliar. That's actually
a good sign.
Good sign. And it's an opportunity then to pause and say, okay, something's changing here. What do I want to make of it? What do I want to understand from it? And which way now do I want to kind of direct it, right, and not just be an effect of what's happening? Right. So I wrote down some questions that I think I asked myself, and I think that our listeners could ask themselves to start this kind of dialogue about change and about especially going into the next year, not to just see it as now 2025 and this will be my year, but really to live each and every day. If you guys can every single day wake up in the morning and say out loud, I want to live this day fully. I want to experience whatever I'm meant to do in this day. Please, Creator, or however you want to address the universe, show me where I'm meant to be. And then midday, have that conversation with yourself. Is it going in that way? Am I spending time in a useful and meaningful way? Am I feeling connected to myself and my source? And then in the evening, reassess your day. And if you do that every day for the next year, I promise you, your year is going to look very different, but probably in an exceptional way. I mean, something happened this morning when I was exercising and one of the trainers got really injured, and we all ran to help her. But I remember feeling, first of all, I felt her pain, but I felt immense appreciation just for life, right? So and that's an extreme moment, but we have moments like that every single day where you can walk down a street and see a child smiling. Like that always makes me smile, right? And I have appreciation that I saw that simple joy. It's those little things, right? You have another smiley face on now. What are you thinking about?
You see a child smile. I mean, even if a child you don't know, it makes you happy.
Yeah, we're very different like that. I love all children. You love ours. I know, honey.
I love all children in a general sense.
From far.
I get more pleasure from ours.
So the first question I think that I asked myself when I was thinking about what I wanted to share today, what is the message or lesson from the challenges I faced in the past year, and how can I carry that wisdom forward? Because I think it's really important not just to come with, okay, this is what I want for this year and envision it. I think it's important to actually to audit your past year and look at all the great things, the friends you made, the things you learned, but also look at the challenges and understand clearly what wisdom you gained from it, what the blessing in it was. And if you haven't gotten there, it's a great opportunity to do now.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's an important but relatively big ask. I wonder, again, this is for our listeners, how many of our listeners, when they go through a challenge or difficulty, actually take the time to look back, right? Everything is meant to be teaching us.
Oh, we run. Most people run. I'm just so happy that's over with, right?
So
when you get off, we were just in London, right? We went to the Winter Wonderland pop-up amusement park. I was very proud of you for joining me on the roller coasters, although it's been years since you've done that. A good old Abigail convinced you, and I think I did too. But we went on this one ride that was in the dark. You couldn't see. Remember, we asked the guy working there, and I was like, okay, what kind? Are there drops? It's completely closed in. You could not see any ride at all, except when you finish, like for 5 feet of the ride. And he's like, well, you kind of spin. I'm like, okay, I have motion sickness. Is it spinny? Or he's like, no, kind of up and down. It just was so vague as can be. We get on. Totally in the dark. Yeah, you're dropping, you go up. All of a sudden, we're like in a spin cycle of a dishwasher or washing machine, and we are being spun. All I kept saying was, oh my God. I'm not saying, I think I was screaming and laughing hysterically and crying. It was so, and then I could just feel you. I mean, it was one of the funnest things, but why did I even get, I'm so caffeinated right now. How did I get what were we talking about? I feel like Dory. What?
We were talking about looking back at the year and learning and making sure that we learned the lessons from the challenges that we went through.
That was it was such a good point.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me just think for a second. Oh, I have no idea.
Too much caffeine.
Too much caffeine, but I'm having a good time.
Yes.
My point was, I think that I wouldn't do that again with that ride, right? Because my point is, if you go through life and every single thing that you experience, good or bad, have the conversation. Would I do that again? Do I want to do that again? How do I feel about that? And often we just are so, that's what it was. We're just happy the ride's over. That's how I got there on the long and windy road of that thought. But I just wanted to share that I was really proud of you for going on that ride.
Thank you.
So the way I answer the question, again, to remind the listeners after I went on this great tangent, what is the message or lesson from the challenges I faced in the past year, and how can I carry the wisdom forward? So,
and I would say what changes, and I think this is an important part, lessons is a nice way to put it. But the reality is that every challenge that we had was not just meant to teach us a lesson, it was actually meant to create change. So what change am I going to endeavor to do because of the lessons that I learned from the challenges that I experienced in the previous year?
Right. So for me with this question, I realized that much of last year, because let's be honest, when we know this Kabbalistically with Tikkun, the theme is going to be relatively the same. The subject will be different, but you're going to have the same kind of challenges to create some kind of change within you. So I found myself whenever I was in a challenging situation, or I was disappointed or sad about something, and again, right, it was hitting the same parts of me that needed to be awakened. I vacillated from the thought that everything matters, but everything in terms of like, I take my soul process seriously, and so everything matters. And of course, that's not even sustainable, nor is it exactly true, to nothing really matters, right? But that was also an ego defense kind of way of dealing with it, to the ultimate one thought, which was only one thing matters. And that is my connection to source, right? So that's certainty in the process, that the process is the purpose, which means that I really don't want to come to any conclusion in the moment. Like I was very quick to react one way or the other. So that's a big change that I want in the coming year.
Nice.
How would you answer the question?
I would say for me, it's any challenges that I experience, for me, always lead back to one simple, and I was actually reading about this earlier today, that we're supposed to live in such a state of certainty, complete certainty, that, like you said, everything is from the Creator and for our benefit. To really have as few, with the goal to get to zero moments where you have a concern or you worry about something, even things again that many people might find worrisome or concerning. So that's a sort of a lifelong pursuit of mine. But certainly, as I look back in the year, if there's one thing, not that I would change, but I would learn from, is really striving even more powerfully towards living with that certainty that everything is from the Creator, everything is for our benefit, and therefore to spend zero, right? Ultimately, spend zero time with any new information we get to worry or to be concerned.
So ours is the same.
Yeah.
I would only add for you though,
to be to be more talkative in those times where you're trying, so that we can still have conversations, be really quiet. No, I know, sweetie. I think that would be a good one if you want to write that one down.
No, I'm not going to write that. It's okay.
So speaking of writing, I think that there is real power in writing. I think that if our listeners want to answer the question, it would be great to go back in the past year and write down all those challenges or times that they were confused or hurt or disappointed, how they dealt with it, but what would be the spiritual kind of response now with the idea of taking that forward into the year.
Yeah, and I would add, it's not so much that you can make sense of, oh, now I see how I could have reacted differently. Sometimes you're just overwhelmed by the situation.
And sometimes the situation is absolutely just, we're not even saying to make the situation right.
But you can actually ask for the power, for the strength to have more certainty than you had in the previous year. So it's not just a logical process that you go through. Say, oh, I got this medical report and I was really upset, and now this year, I in that same situation, I know how I would handle it differently. I might have no idea, but I want to be able to have the strength. So
just be clear about what the change you desire.
Right,
is.
And sometimes it's the change you desire is a prayer. It's not so much, oh, I know what I can do. Maybe you don't know what you can do, but you're asking the Creator to give you the strength to be able to be different.
Exactly. Beautiful. I have another question. Would you like to hear it?
I would love to hear it.
What aspects of my life feel out of alignment with my true essence, and how can I begin to realign them? I really love this question because I think even if you're striving to live an authentic life, we often respond to what's right in front of us or what is the loudest thing or what's demanding our attention. And it's really easy to get out of alignment. And I know for me, I think it's to honor when I feel the need to be internal, and when I feel the desire to be external, or I know that's really what I should be doing and it's time to do it to be it. I think often it's like, I need to do this, or I should do this, or I don't want to disappoint that person. And I know that, I shouldn't disappoint myself, really. So I'd say in this year, I want to be able to guard my time more, I think, in a nutshell is how I would say it. It's really hard, though, because I'm very empathetic, and I tend to look at the one that, the teary eyes, or the one that feels that they need the most. But then I look at big picture and I know that probably wasn't my best. I'm just responding to an emotion.
Right.
But it's hard. It's been something I've been working on for years. I'm much better with it, but I would say still just to safeguard my time. You're very good at that.
Well, I am. But it's interesting. As you were talking, I thought for myself, if I was, and I try, and I think it is important to try to calibrate and audit where are we investing energy on a daily basis, and the spiritual point from which that stems is the fact that if you take yourself seriously, which means you understand that you are a significant person, which means you have significant light.
And just to clarify for listeners, you're not speaking the ego version. You're saying if you take your soul, the essence of your soul, that energy, that great, great light within you, seriously, not the things that you do and whatever.
Right. But that necessarily means that every place you invest your energy, your time and your energy should be important. So for me, the thought is, to waste less time. Now that can sound like, well, of course you don't want to waste time, but wasting time is also investing in things that you think might be important, but actually aren't. And I think that's an important distinction. It's not just, honesty. I spent, 6 hours whittling, no, which by the way, not to diminish the importance of whittling for those who enjoy it. But the point is, I'm talking about even if your day is full with doing, that's not the question. The question is, am I really investing this beautiful, powerful energy that I have in the most important places?
And let's be honest, we often give to the wrong people in the wrong way. And I know sometimes when I do that, I literally the next day, I'll say to you and myself, I'm not going to do that again. That's not going to happen again, because it's clear to me that was just time and energy I'll never get back. And it really was meant to be put somewhere else in that day, because we know Kabbalistically the energy that we have in that day is unique to that day, and the energy in tomorrow is unique to that day. And if you look at it like that, you don't want to miss out on any of the places that you were supposed to touch, or people you were supposed to speak to, or ways that you were supposed to reveal your light, But if you're busy deciding that this is what I should do, and
and that's nice. So that's what they expect. And of course, we have responsibilities with family and different kinds of things. Good. You can do that once a year, or however you decide.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's part of living too.
And
but
important.
if you find yourself in balance, and I always tell people, that you're giving in the wrong places in the wrong way when you are exhausted after giving and you don't actually feel good about the giving.
Yeah,
or
the
you
second part.
resent it.
I think sometimes it's okay to be exhausted, even having done the most
drained. I mean, not tirelessly, not from the tirelessly pursuit of. I'm saying like drained. It's a different feeling. So I would say to our listeners, start taking inventory of what might be misaligned in your values or your habits, your relationships, and then write those down. And simply put, your values are things that are important to you. So it's a good way to say, okay, really what's ultimately important to me in the big scheme of things? How much of my energy and time is going there? How many habits that I have are around that kind of thing?
And what and as important, if not more important, and what are the things that are not, right?
Correct. The two lists, one and the same. I have one more big one. One more.
Okay.
The other thing in doing this audit, I think that it would be important to ask ourselves what limiting fears we hold and what kind of power they have over us, and to be really clear about what habits, thoughts, patterns, or beliefs we have that no longer serve us. And that's a really tricky one. And that is going to take probably a few pages in somebody's journal to really sort through that and write that out. But it is the thing that really stops us from living our lives as we're meant to. It's fear, right? It robs us of our potential because it keeps us stuck. And then those limiting negative beliefs. So on average, a person has 60,000 thoughts a day. 90 to 95% of those thoughts are repetitive, and 75% of the thoughts are negative. 75 to 80%. So if we just look at it, right, if those facts, it would be silly not to actually stop and say, okay, what are the thoughts that I'm having? How many are the, what are the repetitive negative ones? And then just simply write them out and then write the opposite of it. So you start to train yourself to see things.
Can you give an example?
I could. Would I? Of my negative thoughts?
No, not yours. It doesn't have to be yours. It can be yours.
Yours?
Yes, mine.
So a negative thought could be that.
I have a good one.
Go ahead.
Nobody wants to hear from me.
Yep.
I've heard somebody say that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Or I'm not smart enough, or I don't have what it takes to start a business. I'm unlovable, right? I mean, there's so many. I mean, 80% of our thoughts are negative.
And it's interesting.
95% are repetitive. Just think about that.
So it's interesting. So as you know, thankfully, I don't
dwell in that state.
I don't really, for the most part, have those type of thoughts. I know that it is a fact that many people do. How likely is it, or how easy will it be for our listeners who are maybe new to this practice that you're recommending here, to actually discover? Like I don't, people people that me and I'm thinking, there's definitely a lot about their internal life that they should be changing. But if you said this to them, meaning find those fears, those negative thoughts that are holding you back, how likely are they to actually discover those fears and those negative thoughts that are holding them back?
It's absolutely doable. One, you have to make the choice that you want to be honest with yourself, fully, completely transparent and honest,
okay,
no matter how much it's going to hurt to discover the truth, right? That's why a lot of people don't want to know if their partner's cheating, or they're like, I'm not prepared to do anything about it. So I'm saying do nothing with it, but just be honest with yourself. So that takes the pressure off right there. Then have a journal with you. I don't recommend putting in your phone. I want it on paper, and write down every time a negative thought comes into your head, catch it and write it down. I don't care if it's 15 times a day, 100 times, whatever. And you write those thoughts down. And let's say you do that for a whole week. Then you're going to see how many of the same thoughts you're having every day. At night, then I want you to write down the opposite of that thought. So I am unlovable. You're going to write, I am loved and I'm worthy of receiving all goodness, right? So you start to now change. So eventually, right, if you do that, then when you have the thought, suddenly now you're going to catch it and you're going to out loud say the opposite mantra or thought. And I know it works. I started doing that when I was 17. Louise Hayes is big on that. Different mantras to say that change
the way that your belief system, basically. So I would say start there.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Monica, can you recap for our listeners the questions and thoughts that we are suggesting for them to have for the audit of the previous year as we look forward to an amazing, even more powerful and blessed new year?
So the 3 questions for you and for us: what is the message or lesson from the challenges you faced in the past year, and how can you carry that wisdom forward? 2, what aspects of your life feel out of alignment with your true essence, and how can you begin to realign them? Remember, your values are things that are important to you. 3, what limiting beliefs or fears do you have that need to be released? What habits, thought patterns, or beliefs no longer serve you, and how can you release them? One of my favorite quotes, actually, and I, again, live by this: watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become your habits. Watch your habits because it becomes your character. And watch your character because it becomes your destiny.
Beautiful. So I'm sure as our listeners take this advice and go through this 3-question audit, right, they'll be positioned in such a way that this new year will be an amazing new year for them and for all of us. So thank you.
It'll be purposeful and light-filled.
Thank you, Monica. We hope you enjoyed
You're welcome.
listening to this podcast. And I do want to mention, if you are inspired by these questions, if you have what you want to share with us, share them at Monica and Michael at spirituallyhungry.life. Monica and Michael at spirituallyhungry.life. We'd love to hear
the audits. Absolutely.
The audits. I think it'll be very inspiring for our listeners. So even those of you who are shy sometimes about sharing with us or with our listeners, I think this will be a great opportunity to share your insights from this audit. And I think it'll inspire the rest of our listeners. As always, we hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Stay spiritually hungry.
Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.